What's up, everyone? Happy Saturday. Welcome to RotoGrinders NBA Crunch Time. I'm your host, PJ Zworich, joined by two of the sharpest minds in the biz. We got the Triple T formation on a Saturday. First up, hey, Bojangles himself, Taylor Smith. How you doing, Taylor?
Doing well. Glad to be back. Another Triple T kind of weekend. I thought this would be a pretty chill slate, but we do have some news that can shake things up quite a bit. John Morant and Aaron Gordon being the main guys, so maybe we'll get something during the show, maybe not. Gordon's in the last game of the night, so we'll see what mayhem ensues.
Yeah, not a lot of news we're waiting for, but like you said, the small amount that we are is quite important for the slate. Aaron Gordon, obviously not a big deal on his own, but it makes Russell Westbrook a very good play if he's out. And then if Gordon is in, Westbrook not so great, but Gordon himself looks like a reasonable value. And then the John Morant thing, obviously very big for Memphis today, helping us break it down as well. I got Tim Buell, Tasteful Tides. How you doing, Tim?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Always great to get the Triple T formation back together for the Saturday show. Not a lot of news on the slate, which is actually kind of refreshing. But that John Morant potential news and that Aaron Gordon news has potentially pretty significant impacts on this smallish slate.
If you're watching us on YouTube, smash that like button for us. All you gotta do is take your mouse, bring it over, give a little click. If you're watching on your phone, you gotta put hide chat, and then you can hit the like button. It's 2 steps. It's tougher, but we appreciate it. It helps us a ton. It's free content for the NBA on the weekend. And pretty soon, with baseball starting, we're on most Saturdays and some Sundays, we're gonna have not one but 2 shows coming on the weekend as well, with both MLB and NBA. So make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out. And it's the perfect time to play multiple different sports because we got Combo Pro on now for only $79.99. That's just $15 more than PGA, $5 more than NBA. Talk about a value play. And it's just such a good time because MLB is about to start. We got golf going right now. We got MMA in addition to NBA still having one last month. So it's the absolute perfect time to sign up for Combo Pro. Or if you're just playing NBA, you can still get access to some of the most advanced NBA data in the market. You can get shot quality projections for Lineup HQ, rotogrinders.com/shot quality. You can get 1 month of access for $40 or yearly for just $200. Or if you want to give it a test run, you can get a 3-day pass for $9.99. Lastly, be sure to check out our Props and Pick'em package for a discount. The Props and Pick'em package features daily prop picks and fantasy pick'em selections from many of your favorite RotoGrinders experts. We're knocking 50% off the price of your first month when you sign up with the link down below, right down there in the description below on YouTube. Taylor, I'll throw it to you. Give us a little breakdown of this slate we got, because like you said, we're not waiting on much news. We still have 2 important pieces, but there is still a lot of value because there was news. We just got it all already.
Yeah, I think the main one is going to be the Pelicans news we got this morning with Zion and C being out. I was into Zion as a play, but obviously now it opens things up quite a bit for his teammates. Murphy and McCollum on the high end, Olynyk, Makovich, Bruce Brown, maybe Alvarado, Jordan Hawkins, also the value to get to. And then on the other side, it's San Antonio on a back-to-back without Fox, without Wemby, still not quite priced up enough. Guys like Castle and Vassell in particular on DK for the roles they should have with guys. That game in particular stands out. We could have some Miami stuff, like if Jaquez starts again, I would have interest in him despite the risk. OKC's without a couple starters in the first game of the night. So, and then of course without Giddey in all likelihood. So there's value everywhere. Houston's missing some guys. No one's really at full strength. Except teams like Washington's close to full strength. Memphis could be, but we'll find out what their status is later on.
Tim, we'll start going game by game, then we'll go position by position here as well. It is a pretty big slate, so I think I was going to ask you your thoughts on the slate as a whole, but feel free to give them and then lead us into Oklahoma City and Detroit, because with the amount of games we got in the slate, I think we got to start pounding our way through.
Yeah, so I just wanted to touch base about FanDuel really quick, because we're going to talk about this OKC Detroit game, and it's kind of important how you play that game because it takes up roster spots for this potential news that may be coming in later. But on FanDuel, OKC is a really good team to get exposure to because they're very, very cheap over there. So kind of depends on what site you're playing, like what you want to do with that game. Because on DK, in my opinion, this Detroit OKC game is a fade. But on FanDuel, you can get to multiple pieces of it because they're just so darn cheap. So it's kind of slate dependent tonight, what we're doing, in my opinion. So yeah, we'll talk about it.
All right. Well, OKC Detroit, who are some of those guys that you're going to be targeting on FanDuel?
Yeah, so on FanDuel, I'm getting to two OKC players in the first optimal, but really I could see getting to, potentially, even more if you wanted to. SGA is, I think, pretty. He's just so easy to play. He's not too cheap, but I think he's incredibly easy to play. He should get his full allotment of minutes, right around 35 probably. He's projecting really well. And then the other one I'm getting to is Lou Dort, actually at 4.4. He's projected for around 26 fantasy points. I think he's an exceptional value. I'm not usually a person that wants to recommend playing Lou Dort in the first game of the night, but I think that he's really, really cheap and really viable. Then you have to make a decision, like how heavily do you want to build into this game, knowing that you don't have all the information for later. Okay, so I mean, there are other guys that you could play. You could potentially play Aaron Wiggins at 4,700. Cason Wallace at 5K, I think is completely viable as well. I would probably max 3, but I would try to get to at least one of these OKC guys in my FanDuel builds.
All right, Taylor, how about you? What are you doing with OKC and Detroit?
Yeah, I agree on FanDuel. It's pretty hard to get away from them. Don't generally like to play Dort or Wallace into ownership, but they are cheap. If Wiggins is out, I think he's still questionable. So like they could be even more shorthanded than they already are. That would make me feel a bit about those guys. I do think Wiggins did play. He's in on FanDuel because he's like 700 cheaper than he is on DK. And Shea at the top might be the best play on the entire slate on FanDuel. Just like 2 point guard spots. He's averaging like 1.8 points per minute with Holmgren and Jalen Williams. So phenomenal rates for him. The matchup's not great, but minutes should be safe. The game has like a 4-point spread, which we don't often see with Oklahoma City. So I'm fine with him. I'm getting to him DK. Really, the only Thunder guy I'm making any semblance of a priority on DK. Hartenstein's okay too. Kind of priced up in the 7K range, but minutes should be decently safe without Chet.
What about the Detroit side of things? You going to be getting to any Cade, any Jalen Duren tonight?
I think I'm just going to miss one. The Detroit side, like Oklahoma City shorthanded is probably not as stout as they normally are defensively, but still not something I want to really play into. Cade's always viable. He's going to be like the unknown superstar in this slate. So if in a large field set, I could see getting to him, but Tobias is not exciting. Duren, the center has other options. I just prefer kind of an all price spectrum. So I don't fault anyone for getting to Cade or Duren, but that's about it for me.
Tim, how about you? I know you're only playing one lineup, but if you're playing more, do you think you'd get to any Cade Cunningham tonight?
I mean, I guess so. He would not make a 3 max for me. Maybe I'd put him in 1 or 2 in a 20 max, a small, tiny sprinkle in a 150. But in single entry and 3 max, no Cade for me. The only Detroit player that I would consider is Duren on both sites. I think he's a small RG value on DraftKings. I don't mind him. He's not going to be chalky. This is actually a pretty good spot for him, at least on the for like offensive rebounds. So if he gets the minutes, I think he could end up paying off that price tag pretty easily. So I think he's okay for GPPs.
Yeah, I got to about 10% of each of them in my 150 max setting today. Chicago and Houston game probably wouldn't be very interesting on the Chicago side, except they are undermanned in this spot. I think Kobe White on FanDuel looks pretty good. On DraftKings, Trey Jones is looking pretty good, and Kevin Huerter will be picking up some ownership as well. On FanDuel, though, Alperen Şengün looks like he's in a great spot where he's significantly cheaper than he is on DK. Taylor, we'll start with you. What do you think about Chicago and Houston?
Yeah, I'm kind of reluctant with the Chicago side, although Houston without Thompson and without Eason is not quite as good defensively as they normally would be, but we're still getting price hikes on the Bulls. I do think Jones and Huerter are fine. Kobe White, definitely good in tournaments, given the usage he gets with Levine out and Giddey out and things like that. So I'm okay with it. The Houston side, obviously, a lot more interesting without Eason and Thompson. Şengün's in an awesome spot with the Bulls just getting killed in the paint every single night. Don't mind Jalen Green, just kind of a mid-range dart throw. Probably not going to get super high ownership on this slate, maybe like teens or so. And then with Eason out, I think Jabari is a pretty good value, sub 5K on DraftKings at least. On FanDuel, he is something else, 5.3. So I'm still fine with it. That's probably about it. Like Dylan Brooks is fine in a player pool, but like Van Vliet still on a limit. The rest of the values aren't super interesting. So the Houston side's a lot more appealing, but both teams have viable options.
Tim, how about you? Chicago and Houston.
Yeah, so I'm definitely getting to Şengün on FanDuel. He's a really good price over there. It's an absolutely amazing matchup for centers. So he's currently in my FanDuel single entry build right now. He's only 9-1, so he's definitely my favorite play. Kobe White on FanDuel is definitely fine as well. Not quite making optimals right now, but I certainly don't mind him at all. Trey Jones is definitely a better play on DraftKings than he is on FanDuel, but I think he's okay on both sites. Kevin Huerter would be another value play that I wouldn't mind getting to. He's 5,200 on FanDuel, and he is, where did he go? 4,800 on DK. So yeah, on both sites, I think Kevin Huerter is a really, really strong salary saving option. I think that's really it. Yeah, it's definitely Trey Jones on DK, Şengün, and Kobe White on FanDuel would be my priorities.
All right, next up we have Miami at Memphis. We'll wait on that one just in case we happen to get some Ja Morant news here. So we'll go Indiana at Milwaukee. Should be a pretty fun real-life basketball game. Only a 3.5-point spread in this one. Giannis Antetokounmpo going to be the chalkiest spend up on the slate. I'll give my hot take. I wrote it in an expert survey, so that for premium members, it should be no surprise. But I'll give my hot take after Tim and Taylor here. But Indiana and Milwaukee, what are your plans to do with Giannis Antetokounmpo and company in this one, Tim?
Yeah, so he's definitely somebody that I'm going to be looking to play on DraftKings. I think it's just too easy to play him. But the problem is you're sacrificing Jokic, right? So that's kind of like the big decision point because they both should be really strong in terms of raw points. So you got to know that it's pretty hard to play both of them. It's probably not advisable to play both of them. So you got to pick one. And right now I've got Giannis, and I almost always play Jokic, but I'm leaning Giannis tonight. So he's going to be my guy on cash games and single entry on DraftKings at least. I'm not getting to either one on FanDuel.
What about any other players for Milwaukee or Indiana you're going to take shots on?
They're really, I don't think there's any other player, which is kind of surprising in this game, that's a positive RG value. I guess Dame would be interesting leverage off of Giannis, but I would only do that in like a 20 set or a 150 set. Really no interest. I'm really have no interest in this game outside of Giannis in single entry.
Taylor, how about you?
Yeah, I'm the same way. It feels bad because it's a game with a pretty high total and a tight spread and a couple of mediocre defenses, but it's probably just a salary thing. Like Indiana's kind of priced up from when Halliburton was out about a week ago. They're at full strength also, so not a whole lot of edge there. And then with Milwaukee, they're also pretty much at full strength. I guess you can make a case for the old Kevin Porter Jr. tournament dart throw at 3-7, just monster upside, even if he plays limited minutes. But definitely a large field thing. It's really just Giannis or Dame, especially on FanDuel. I think Dame's a little bit cheaper, but that's really about it. I'm not getting to anything else there.
Call me crazy, but in the 150 lineups today, I'm going to go with 0 Giannis Antetokounmpo. I'm going to go with the fade on him today, and I'm going to just try and get to as much SGA and Nikola Jokic as I can. So right now I'm getting to about 60% Jokic, and I'm just going to hope and pray that Jokic outscores Giannis by a significant margin, and as long as he does, it should be a very good day for me. If Giannis goes off, it'll be a bad day for me, and that's all right. We're on to the next one. I just feel like he has so rarely flashed a very big ceiling this season. You know, it's like maybe you get 70 from him, but Jokic, you can get 80 or 90, and we just don't really see that in the realm of possibility for Giannis this year. So it's scary, but I'm going with the full fade on Giannis Antetokounmpo today. Oh, my phone vibrating. Do we just get some
Bucks?
Giannis and Lillard and Kevin Porter available to play? All things we knew. I was hoping that was going to be the John Morant news, but Miami and Memphis going back for this one. Jaime Jaquez has randomly become a mega chalk value play because he has been thrust into the starting lineup. Taylor, what do you plan to do with Jaquez and the rest of the guys in this game?
Depends entirely on whether he starts. He played 6 minutes the game before he started. Eric Spoelstra just does this all the time. He's happy to yank around rotations for his non-star pieces. So, like, I feel okay about Jaquez if he starts, but he could certainly get the rug pulled out from under him even in that scenario. The matchup's good against Memphis in terms of pace and all that. So, and he's cheap. Like, he's under 4K. So, like, there's not a huge risk if he starts. But if he's into ownership, there could certainly be a scenario where the fade is viable. If he's off the bench, I would be running away from that entirely. I would fully fade him, I think, at that point. The stars on the team, I think Hero is a good play in this spot. I think Bam is a really good tournament play that's not going to garner a lot of ownership. And then I think Wiggins, especially on DraftKings at 6'2", is just cheap for the minutes he plays with Miami. Good usage, pretty steady roll. Even on FanDuel at 6'5", no issue with that either. So beyond Jaquez, I still have interest in the other main Miami pieces. And then I guess if Jaquez doesn't start and Ware does, you can make a case for Ware, but his minutes have been scaled back in a big way. So that's not something I would have a whole lot of faith in, even if he does start.
Tim, how about you? Miami and Memphis.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're waiting on the Morant news, which is really quite big for the slate because it would really catapult Scottie Pippen. It would help Luke Kennard quite a bit. It would help Desmond Bane quite a bit. So that news is very, very important. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But yeah, I mean, Jaime Jaquez is really the only positive RG value on Miami. Andrew Wiggins is as well. I guess Tyler Hero is as well. So I guess Tyler Hero is a pretty good GPP play because he's not going to be overly chalky. I don't know if I would really want to get to Andrew Wiggins here. I know that his price is okay, but I've never really comfortable playing him. So really it's just Jaime Jaquez and Tyler Hero for me. That this Memphis side is very much in flux. Well, we'll have to see about the news. If they're fully healthy, I don't really see myself getting to any of these Memphis guys, just because it's a huge pace down spot for them. And, it's just, I just don't think it's a place where I want to be spending salary tonight.
Assuming Jaquez is in the starting lineup, if John Morant is out. Say this is a utility position. Would you play Hawkes or Scottie Pippen?
So in situations like this, I would utilize, I believe we have an if then for this. Looks like we'd be giving Scottie Pippen just under 30 fantasy points without Morant. So have to double check.
Definitely Pippen.
Yeah, so then it's definitely Pippen, yeah. And that's like it's a pretty easy. How much is Pippen on DK? 37.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's 37. So yeah,
Totally different positions, but they're the same price.
Yeah, I mean, there's only a $200 difference. So that's a really, really easy 1v1 right there.
New York and Golden State. Speaking of games that have no positive RG values in them, I think the New York side of this game is pretty interesting, Tim. I have 0 Golden State players in my pool right now. Who do you like, New York and Golden State?
So it's just really an ownership thing for me. If I know Cat has not been great lately. I did run Sims before the show, and he's actually simming quite well. And he's only going to be like, I don't know. I can't imagine he's going to be very highly owned at all. He's like 3% on FanDuel. He's currently 12% projected on DK. So yeah, I mean, it's just an ownership play. I know it's not a great matchup, but I think that he's at least viable in GPPs. I think Josh Hart's too expensive now. I think it's really just Cat for me.
Lord King Guru in chat says, you guys can play Pippen. I'll play the guy that always outscores him when Morant is out, Kennard. I'll tell you a secret, my friend. You can play both, and they're both going to rate out very, very well if John Morant is out. Taylor, New York, and Golden State, who are you playing in this one?
Yeah, I'm the same as Tim. I do like the Knicks as just unowned pieces to kind of filter in for differentiation, but they are priced up. They've kind of adjusted to life without Brunson from a salary standpoint. So like even McBride's pretty expensive at this point. And the minutes could be a little bit in flux. I think Mikal Bridges kind of complained to Tibbs before the last game about the minutes. So they were trending for less minutes, and then they played overtime, so they all still got to 40. But I don't know. It's not a good matchup. They have a pretty low total. They're all pricey. Certainly not anything to prioritize really on either side of this game.
I do want to bring up Moses Moody really quick. I think that I did forget to mention him. I think he's an okay value. He does fill that small forward, power forward slot. He's projected for 30 minutes with Bajemski out. So I think he's okay for larger field tournaments.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. I thought he was still shooting guard, small forward. I didn't realize it was small forward, power forward. I do like that better. I'll add him into the pool. If you're playing a ton of lineups, I don't think it's totally ridiculous to include Kevon Looney, as long as he starts at $3,400, just in case he picks up some extra minutes going up against Karl Anthony Towns. But still, this is not a game that I really have a lot of interest in getting to. I'll play some McBride, play a little bit of OG, play a little bit of Bridges. Towns would be my favorite, but still not going to be getting too much from this one at all. Having said that, I'm going to be getting to a lot of the next game, New Orleans Pelicans at the San Antonio Spurs. The least interesting real-life game on the slate and the most interesting DFS game on the slate by far. Both of these two teams, probably the top two targets on the slate. I can't remember who started last time. So, Tim, I'll go to you first. New Orleans and San Antonio, start wherever you like.
Yeah, this game is filled with fantasy goodness on both FanDuel and DraftKings. Tons of positive RG values on both sites. I would be building into this game heavily if I was making a full 150 set, 20 set, doesn't matter. I'd be getting a ton of exposure to this game. It's going to be owned, right? Like you're going to have to pay attention to your ownership here, but I think it's mostly there's a lot of really, really strong plays here. Stephon Castle, is I think a must play cash game play, probably a must play single entry play as well. He was definitely one of, if not the first player in all of my builds. So he's a top play in the night, 6,200. Still fills that shooting guard spot. He is point guard also, but he does have that nice MPE. Kelly Olynyk, 5,100. He still has that power forward eligibility. I think he's a really, really strong play as well. The player on DraftKings with the highest RG value is Trey Murphy. He's another guy. He's in both my FanDuel and my DraftKings lineup. So I mean, I think he's a really fantastic play as well. Jose Alvarado would probably be my next guy in, and then you can mix and match guys like CJ McCollum, Makovich, Keldon Johnson, guys like that can be like mix and match pieces for large field GPPs.
I'm going to be getting a lot of these later games. I set it to max 5 of New Orleans because genuinely I was looking at it and like there are lineups I like that have Murphy, McCollum, Alvarado, Makovich, and Olynyk. All of them were sub out McCollum and add in Jordan Hawkins, sub out them and add in Bruce Brown, and I still like the way those lineups look. So I'm playing a ton of New Orleans and minimum one San Antonio player in every single lineup as well. Taylor, how about you? What are you doing in New Orleans and San Antonio?
Yeah, mostly the same stuff. There's a lot to like on both sides. I think you can add Mo Bamba to the mix on DK. Yep. He played 25 minutes the other night. He's 3-2. If you told me that Bamba was going to play 25 minutes at 3K the other night, I probably would have played him a ton. He didn't really get there, but just historically a pretty decent per minute guy who's cheap. So I'm okay with that. And they're missing 2 starting front court pieces, so the minutes should be okay. Are you guys setting any kind of rules for like Makovich, Olynyk, and Bamba? Would you do like a max 2 of the 3? Or are you okay with all 3 together?
I did max 2.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking the same thing with, just to be different, I'm kind of thinking the same thing for me personally with Johnson, Vassell, and Castle on DK. I don't think it's a necessity because they are good individual plays, but I'm not sure I want to eat all 3 into ownership in the same lineup. And then I'm Xing out Chris Paul completely. I see no reason to do that on this slate.
I don't know if this was brought up. Would you guys play Makovic and Olynyk together?
Yeah, that's what Taylor just brought up. We're good with playing 2 of Makovich, Olynyk, and Bamba, but probably not 3.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Chris Paul, if he's going to be somewhat popular at all, just see reason to do that. Like, it's cheap, but the minutes have been down to back. They have no real reason to extend him at all. So I just think there's other value you can get to. Like, that could burn me, of course, but I just don't really feel like it's likely to happen. So, and then the forwards like Barnes, Champagny, Sohan, not really into that. I think Champagny's okay at 3-3, but it's really just Johnson in the front court, and then the other forwards are kind of secondary pieces.
Tim, any final thoughts on this one before we move on?
No, we can move on.
My current build right now has 50% Makovich, 50% Alvarado, 49% Olynyk, 45% Castle, 41% Murphy, 30% McCollum, Hawkins, Brown. So I'm going to be playing a lot of New Orleans on this slate. Twitter notification. Is it John Morant? Game time decision. That doesn't help us. It was GTD. John Morant. It's a game time decision. Aaron Wiggins out. So that does make the Oklahoma City side look even better, especially on FanDuel.
You might be playing 3 on FanDuel now.
I don't think I'm going to get to still anybody other than SGA or Hartenstein on DK, though. I still think even with that news, those are the only ones I'm going to play. Kason Wallace has had 2 really good games in a row, but he shot like 80% from the field.
Yeah, I think you can still fade Oklahoma on DK.
All right, late night hammer. We have Washington at Denver. Washington side, I think there are a couple pieces you can play. No one super exciting, but definitely pieces you can get to. Nikola Jokic, my favorite tournament play on the slate. And Taylor, if I'm not mistaken, according to the expert survey, your favorite tournament place on the slate as well. We'll start with you here, Washington and Denver.
Jamal Murray now questionable.
Yeah.
Oh,
Spicy.
Yeah,
I think,
man, this is
Westbrook's
frustrating
gonna
because
be
we've
pretty
got news in the first game of the slate and news for the last game. It's pretty frustrating.
Yep.
It's tough to build.
all right. I'm now
Is
gonna
Murray is there any chance he's gonna play like a super late midday downgrade? Like that seems like more like a doubtful to me, but I guess we'll
sounds
see.
like this could be a Westbrook night now.
Yeah, I'm gonna bump Westbrook way the hell up right now and just hope one of Gordon or Murray sit, but I think it's probably gonna be Murray. I wish we got that after lock just because I was already playing 60% Westbrook or 60% Jokic.
I think there's a chance it's both.
I do too. I think they remember that it's Washington.
Yeah, back to back. They probably don't need him to beat the Wizards, so it's all about Denver. I think there are good plays on Washington, like you said. Like I think Sarr is okay. Penny in his starting role is getting expensive, but the minutes have been pretty good. And then like Smart and Middleton are fine differentiators, especially at 4K guard forward on DK. I don't mind that, but it's really Denver. Like Jokic, regardless of the news, going to be a great play. I think Michael Porter obviously going to get a boost if one or two of those guys sit. We're getting into Westbrook territory, I think, regardless. Like it's hard to imagine both those guys play at this point. So I'm going to boost him as well. And then other than that, like Brown's fine. Not super excited about the other stuff. Peyton Watson, I guess you can mix him in if Gordon's out, but they still have kind of a deep rotation of bigs after that. So really just the starters for me.
Tim, how about you? Washington and Denver does the Murray news maybe change your mind on the Jokic over Giannis thing tonight?
Yeah, I mean that's like the decision of the night. I'm definitely giving Westbrook a big bump now to make sure he makes my top single entry team, but I'm still not positive on what I want to do Giannis v Jokic. I think now I'm leaning Jokic. I do have severe concerns about the blowout, but I mean, Jokic could easily put up 80 fantasy points in a blowout here. So I think that I'm leaning Jokic, but I think it's still pretty close. Yeah, I mean, I don't have an issue getting to a couple Washington pieces, like in very, very small amounts, is like, a cheap one-off here to get contrarian. But I would not build too heavily into this Washington side. Not really any priorities for me.
All right, let's start taking a look at SimLabs here. I do think we have enough time to do FanDuel and DraftKings individually. So we'll start out on FanDuel, go position by position, outline the core plays for cash games today, as well as our favorite pivots. So Taylor, I'll throw it to you first. Point guard position on FanDuel. You prioritize an SGA in cash. What would you do here?
Yeah, I think you just play him. We talked about it, but he's been insane per minute without Chet and Williams. Very easy to get to him with all the value you have. I think you can pay up for 2 10K plus guys on FanDuel. So he's one of them. The other point guard is kind of up in the air. Like you can move Castle to shooting guard. You can play Wallace and McCollum and Kobe White at shooting guard. So I'll my with him. Just cheap in that game. New Orleans without a couple starters. Good game environment. Still pricey compared to DraftKings on FanDuel, but don't mind it in cash.
How about you, Tim?
Are we doing FanDuel first, DJ?
Yeah.
Okay, so I did give a big boost to Westbrook on FanDuel and on DraftKings, so I am going to be plugging in Westbrook. He's 6,300 on FanDuel. There's a couple decisions that you can make at point guard tonight. I am personally going to go Jose Alvarado, but I think that if you wanted to get to, a Stephen Castle, but I think I'm going to be playing him at shooting guard. SGA at point guard. Obviously, you can play him. He's a pretty awesome play. But right now, I personally am going Westbrook and Alvarado at point guard.
All right, take me to shooting guard, Tim.
Yeah, so shooting guard, you're definitely playing Stephon Castle in cash games. There's really no question about that one. That's a very easy decision. Then there's like some cheapies like Jaime Jaquez, Lou Dort. Then you can go to the mid range, like a Devin Vassell. I think those guys are all cash game viable. And I also think that you could get to Trey Jones as well.
All right, Taylor, how about you?
Yeah, so Jaquez, if he starts, like we talked about, is fine. I think Dort and Wallace look better now that Wiggins is out. Castle's one you're definitely going to play. Vassell, I'm still okay with. Very similar play to Castle, but don't mind pairing them together. Jalen Green and Kobe White, if you have a little more money to spend, I guess use Wiggins makes Isaiah Joe like borderline cash viable. I just don't think you really need to do that.
Kenrich Williams is the guy stepping into the starting lineup for Aaron Wiggins today. Taylor, take us over to small forward.
So, Jaquez and Dort you can play over here. Andrew Wiggins, I mentioned really liking. Trey Murphy is probably a must in cash, I think, just given the state of the Pelicans without Zion and others. Vassell, we talked about. Bruce Brown and Kevin Huerter are still cheap enough to be viable. I think Huerter is a better play on DK where you can play him at guard, and he's cheaper. Caruso, another OKC piece who could benefit a bit. He just doesn't have any sort of ceiling. I think he's topped 30 fantasy points like once in 2025. So definitely more of a cash play. He's cheap enough to be fine, but not someone I'm ever excited to play. Bless you.
Thank you. Tim, small forward.
Devin Vassell, I think is a really strong play. He is 6,900. I think he's better in the small forward than the shooting guard spot. Trey Murphy, we've talked about that game. I think he's a really spectacular play in all formats. We've discussed Jaime Jaquez, Lou Dort. I'm getting to some Justin Champagnie in optimals. I think he's probably better as like a contrarian single entry play than a cash game play, but if you land there as like a last piece, I think that's okay. Keldon Johnson and Kevin Huerter are fine as well. I think that's the only guys there for that position for me.
All right, take us to power forward.
Yeah, so I think Kelly Olynyk in the power forward spot on FanDuel at 5.5 is a solid play in any format. We discussed Giannis versus Jokic. It's kind of a coin flip in my eyes, but I think if you want to spend up for Giannis in cash or single entry, that's completely fine. Makovich at 5K, very similar to Kelly O. Like if you don't have the 500 for Kelly O, you just go down to Makovich. Keldon Johnson at 5,300, I think is fine as well.
All right, Taylor, how about you? Power forward.
Yeah, not much else to add. I think Jabari's fine without Tari Eason, but that's really it. Like you're looking at Makovich, you're looking at Olynyk, you're looking at Murphy. The decision point is Giannis. I'm inclined to go Jokic now that we have all this Denver stuff waiting. The matchup against Washington couldn't be better anyway. So Giannis is a perfectly fine play if you don't have the money or you don't feel like waiting on the news or whatever, but I think Jokic is probably the way to go now.
From nothing other than like a pure gut momentum feeling, doesn't it kind of seem like John Morant is going to be out?
Yeah,
just
I feel
how
like he
kind of
rarely
chaotic
plays.
this show has been. Like right after walk, we're going to get John Morant out.
Yeah, and that's going to be annoying.
I have an absolute ton of like an uncomfortable amount of like Jordan Hawkins and Bruce Brown. So I'm hoping I'm going to be able to get off of that and just that'll be where all my Scottie Pippen comes from. Who are we at? Did you go power forward yet, Taylor?
Yeah.
Center.
So Jokic, if you do not play Giannis, is certainly the way to go. But if not, there are alternatives. The cheap stuff, Makovich, Kelly Olynyk, you can play here. don't think I'd play Mo Bamba in cash on FanDuel. Hartenstein's fine if you don't want to wait on the news and stuff, but I just think you should be able to be playing Jokic. And if the game blows out, it blows out, but he has a nuclear ceiling, and it's the Wizards, and they might be shorthanded. So all signs point to Jokic.
Tim, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly am leaning the Jokic side in cash. If you don't want to do that and you want to stick with Şengün at 9,100 on FanDuel, I think that's completely fine. But I think it's really down to those two guys in terms of cash games. And then if you want to spread out for GPPs, I like Jalen Duren. I don't mind Isaiah Hartenstein. But those four guys really right there would be my only centers on FanDuel.
All right, let's make the pivot to DraftKings. Don't forget to smash that like button. We'll give you your cash court, some tournament pivots, and then we will take questions going to the RotoGrinders live stream Discord chat first. Then we will go to the YouTube chat second. Tim, start us off, point guard position on DraftKings.
Since I gave Westbrook a pretty significant boost, I am going to be playing him in cash games. I'm kind of feeling like Jamal's going to be sitting. Aaron Gordon might sit. If one of those two sits, Westbrook's a great play, and then if both of them sit, he's an absolute smash play. So any way you want to shake it, I think Westbrook is a good play. So he is currently in my cash game build. I talked about Jose Alvarado, 4,500. He can certainly be a cash game play as well. SGA, if you want to spend up. Chris Paul's showing up. I don't want to play him in cash, but I think in single entry or GPPs, he's completely fine. Same thing with SGA. If you want to spend all the way up, I think he's a good play, but not currently getting to SGA in cash.
All right. Taylor, how about you?
Yeah, Alvarado, nice and cheap over here. Cason Wallace, fine at 4.3. Castle at 6.2 is probably a must in cash, just super cheap over there on DK. And then Westbrook, if we get any news that opens him up, either Gordon or Murray out, I think would lead to him starting. So 6K flat, definitely a smash, definitely someone you're probably going to want in cash. A smash in cash.
All right, take us to shooting guard.
So the Spurs and the Pelicans feature pretty heavily. Castle and Vassell on the San Antonio side, Trey Murphy on the New Orleans side. Kevin Huerter's perfectly fine. I don't love the matchup, but he's cheap. Should have a role. Chicago shorthanded. Ditto for Kobe White on the high end. But I think you should just play Murphy over White in cash, and then White is a pretty good pivot from Murphy in tournaments. All
right, Tim, how about you?
So shooting guard on DraftKings. I'm still going to be playing Stephon Castle at 6,200. I think he's way better in the shooting guard spot than the point guard spot. Devin Vassell, he's probably better at small forward, but he is fine at shooting guard if you just want to pivot to Vassell over Castle. Kevin Huerter and Cason Wallace. I think Cason Wallace is fine. I don't love him, but I think he's a decent play. Trey, I still love Trey Murphy, so I think he's a really strong play. I think you can play him in cash games if you want, if you're at that price point. So it's definitely like it feels like a mid-range position for me, spending somewhere between Stephon Castle and Trey Murphy.
All right, take us to small forward.
Yeah, so we're still getting to Jaime Jaquez at 3,500, small forward, power forward eligibility. I think if he starts, he is a really, really solid cash game value. So he would definitely be making my team. I talked about Devin Vassell. He's certainly somebody that you can play in any format. Kevin Huerter is a solid salary saving option. So is Keldon Johnson. It's really the same guys at shooting guard because you can play Trey Murphy here as well. So I mean, it's really you're just mixing and matching those Spurs guys and some of these Peli guys, or you're paying down at Jaime Jaquez.
Taylor, how about you?
Yeah, I think the only new names would be Keldon Johnson. given the usage for San Antonio off the bench. And then Bruce Brown's okay. It's sub 4K, assuming he's starting for New Orleans still. That's about it, though. You're probably looking at Murphy and Vassell for the most part. Jaquez if he starts, and you move right along.
All right, take us to power forward.
So Olynyk and Makovich, great plays. They're really the same play. Makovich a bit cheaper, so if that makes a difference for you, I don't have any issue with that. Jaquez if he starts. Giannis still okay, but again, just prefer Jokic at this point if you're paying up for one of these guys. Aaron Gordon is okay if he's in. No idea if he will be, but he's 4'9". It's the Wizards, so he can still pay off even if he's not getting a full allotment of minutes. And guys like Champagny, Washington Champagny, and I guess both Champagnes are okay, but much prefer Justin the role he has for Washington.
All right, Tim, how about you, power forward?
Yeah, a lot of guys that we've already mentioned. Kelly Olynyk is definitely somebody at power forward that I'm considering in all formats. You could definitely save the 500 and go to Makovich if you want to. Jaime Jaquez, I think, is a great play, small forward, power forward. And then obviously, you've got Giannis that you can play, but I think that I'm going to be siding with Jokic now. But I mean, I think this news is going to potentially bring Giannis's ownership down. So you might be able to get some kind of like a pretty good, decent ownership discount on Giannis and GPPs.
All right, take me to center.
Yeah, so center, I mean, it's really it's Jokic at 12-8 in the best possible matchup. If that game stays somewhat close, he could be looking at well over 80 fantasy points. So he is my top spend up, but I think he's also going to gain popularity. So it'll bring ownership down on guys like Giannis, like Şengün, like Towns. And then my favorite mid-range center, if you want to get really contrarian, would be Jalen Duren at 7,100.
All right, Taylor, how about you? Who are you playing on DraftKings at center?
Definitely Jokic, definitely Olynyk. Makovich, I believe, also has center. Yeah. That's really it. I'm not really into Hartenstein anymore in the first game of the night. I'd rather just wait on the news. Bamba, fringe cash play. I think it's viable on DK just because you can play two, but generally speaking, I'd rather get to Jokic, Olynyk, and Makovich.
All right, let's start taking some questions. We have 10 minutes left to lock. Lots of time. We absolutely cruise through the game by game and position by position. Smash that like button for us if you're watching us on YouTube. We'll take questions from the RotoGrinders live stream chat, and then I will be going to in Discord, of course. Then I'll be going to the YouTube chat. You can ask us about NBA tonight, about dinner tonight, about what we're doing this weekend, whatever you want, as long as you smash the like button in advance for us. I'll give this question to either of you, whoever can get there first. I'm pulling it up right now as well. Who is the cash power forward on Yahoo tonight?
All right, I'll start. I'll pull it up.
Is it a Pelican or two, perhaps?
It most likely is. By
Kenrich
the way,
Williams is $12 as a full out punt. Jaime Jaquez, if he starts at 16, looks really good. Jabari Smith at 23.
So I ran. I'm just getting. I did 15 lineups, and I'm getting Kenrich and Jaime Jaquez a ton. I think I'd go Jaime Jaquez in cash games, but you could go Kenrich Williams.
Yeah, and then if Jaquez doesn't start, you're gonna have to pivot. But hopefully there'll be that Morant news, that Denver news coming. Still, lots of ways you can adjust that lineup in that case. Can you play an Olynyk and Makovich together? Taylor, we talked about this earlier, but give us a refresher. Can you play those guys together tonight?
Yeah, I think you can. It's not a bad strategy to split them just because they're both going to be highly owned and, maybe one doesn't get there and the other does, but I'm planning on playing them together.
All right. Can on FanDuel, Tim, rank us your top 4 Pelican players for value today.
Okay, top 4 Pelican players for value. I guess I would go Helio, Makovich, Alvarado, Trey Murphy.
Could Rashawn Holmes be in play tonight, Taylor?
No, I do not think so.
Don't think so either. Tim, what do you think about Bane, even if Ja plays?
I don't hate it. I guess it's okay. I mean, he's gonna be incredibly low owned. So I guess that's okay. I don't love it though, because it's just such a bad pace matchup for them.
Taylor, if you're playing 3 OKC players, do you need to play a Piston as a run back?
No, don't really love the Detroit side, so I don't think you need that.
Tim Jackson's wondering how we feel about Houston. We haven't talked about them too much, but he feels like without Amen Thompson or Tyree Eason, guys like Jabari, Jalen Green, and Cam Whitmore are worth a shot.
I'm fine with Jabari. I'm fine with Şengün. Did they mention Cam Whitmore? You said?
Yeah.
I don't really like that play. I don't really like Cam Whitmore tonight. I mean, I could be wrong, but I mean, don't let me ever play your money. So if you want to play him, go for it. I don't think Whitmore is a very good play.
All right. Trey Jones or Miles McBride on DraftKings, Taylor?
I kind of like McBride in tournaments and then Jones for cash.
On FanDuel, do you think there is enough value to play SGA and Joker together, Tim?
Yes, I do.
Is this a late night hammer slate if both Jamal and Aaron Gordon sit out on FanDuel? Yes, absolutely. QQ, Taylor, do you think SGA is a priority for FanDuel cash?
Yeah, I think so. You just want to lock in the mindset. Pretty good at that.
Tim, if Ja misses, does Scottie Pippen become a priority value play?
Yes.
Especially on DraftKings, where he is sub 4K. I think he's above 5K on FanDuel. And so I still think like him versus Alvarado is I probably prefer the Alvarado side even maybe, but it's very, very close. But on DraftKings, he's an absolute must play at that super cheap price tag. Taylor, I'm assuming you're running your typical 20 lineups. Would you say you're looking at more of a stars and scrubs build or balance build for your lineups?
It's definitely stars and scrubs. There are just too many stars to want to avoid. I think a balance build is going to be pretty contrarian, and it's not the worst thing, but mostly star scrubs for me.
Who is your highest owned player in your 20 lineups?
I'm working on that right now. Let me see real quick. It is Leo. No, it's Castle.
Tim, Castle or McBride in GPP on DraftKings?
It's still Castle.
Favorite mid-range center on FanDuel, Tim?
Dern.
Taylor's is 1K too much to leave on the table tonight in a GPP?
Yeah, unless you're planning on pivoting and stuff, depending on news. But I would, if your final lineup has 1K on the table, I think that's too much.
Agreed there. We have hit all of the questions. So get your questions in if you still got them. Brooke Lopez for FanDuel GPP. I wouldn't try that in single entry, I don't think. But if you're building a few lineups, I don't hate Brooke Lopez at all today. Mr. Gerg wants to know how bad was Electric State on Netflix. It's pretty bad. Watched it last night. It was pretty darn bad. But Ray says he's starting Kenrich at center so he can have utility. So he can have Jokic at utility. Is that wise? I mean, I think I would probably not want to waste the center position on Kenrich Williams. I would want to put him at a power forward and play two other Jokic and another center today. but that's just me. Tim, who's breaking the slate tonight?
Geez, everybody, I like a lot of these chalky plays. I guess somebody who's not going to be, it's not projecting for like overwhelming chalk is Jose Alvarado.
I like it. I got a ton of him, so I would be very happy about that. How about you, Taylor?
I feel like the right answer is Jokic, so let's just go out on a limb with that one.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. Give me. Now I wanna. Who's the expensive slate breaker from Tim, and I want a cheap slate breaker from Taylor.
Mo Bamba.
There it is. That's the limb I was looking for, Taylor. How about you, Tim?
I'll go SGA.
Stardog Champion wants to know which game will have the fastest pace. Do you got that offhand, Tim?
I don't, but I would assume overall, I might be wrong, but Indiana, Milwaukee, or perhaps Washington, Denver. I'll have to look it up. There's a couple really strong options. Pelicans and Spurs also.
It's so hard to actually figure out when so many of these teams have half their teams missing because, like, are San Antonio going to play at the same pace without De'Aaron Fox? Probably not. But maybe if they have 4 guards on the court, like, it's so tough to figure out what they're actually going to do.
Yeah, so, Washington plays at the 4th fastest pace and Denver plays at the 5th fastest. So I'm assuming that would be the fastest pace game.
Paul or Alvarado, DK Cash, absolutely Jose Alvarado. Any interest in Luke Kennard on FanDuel if Desmond Bane? I think he said that Bane is out, but I'm assuming he means if Morant is out. Taylor, what do you think?
Yeah, I didn't hurt in that scenario before, but I think even if he doesn't, he's totally fine.
All right, we got about a minute and a half left until lock. Ray's wondering who he would pivot to if Jokic sat. Don't worry about Jokic sitting. He's not going to be sitting tonight. He's probable. He's got a Q tag on DraftKings, but he's not going to be sitting. He is. It's only Murray and Gordon we have to worry about there. I believe that's it. I was kind of hoping we would maybe get some John Morant news, but it doesn't look like we are. Any last-minute questions that come in, we will see if we can hit them, but it looks like we have hit them all as we run up until lock here. My highest owned player is Nikola Jokic at, let's see, 72% Jokic and 58% Westbrook. So I'm playing this as if no Aaron Gordon and no Jamal Murray tonight, just loading up on as much of those guys as I possibly can. 50% Matkovic, Alvarado, and Olynyk. 40% Murphy, Cass and Castle. 30% Bruce Brown, Hawkes, and Hawkins. Wow, that was confusing back to back. And then I'm going to be trying to get to as much Scottie Pippen Jr. and Luke Kennard as possible if we happen to get John Morant out. That's it. We have reached lock. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. Smash the like button on your way out. We'll be back tomorrow for some more NBA content on behalf of myself, Taylor, and Tim. We'll see you next time. Peace.